And we are live. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the HackSmarter Twitch channel. My name is Tyler, or maybe you're watching this watching this after the fact. There we go, on my YouTube page. It is an honor to have you hanging out. I am back with stream number 2 for the day. Had a little bit of time here once again to keep learning about AWS pen testing. So I am not an AWS expert. I am not an AWS pen tester, but one day, I hope I can do an AWS pen test. Right now, my role is primarily web apps, external networks, but I want to learn API pen testing. So I have a whole series on YouTube working through CloudGoat. And then just earlier today, I started working through Flaws2 in the cloud. And I'll show you guys what this is and what we are going to be working on today. And what we are going to do is completely free. So I would encourage you, if you want to learn right alongside with me, go ahead. So if you just go to Flaws2.Cloud, it's brought to us by Scott Piper of Summit Route. So once again, shout out Scott Piper. Thank you for this platform. And here it is. So the Flaws2 Challenge, similar to the original Flaws Cloud, also created by Summit Route. It's a game that teaches us AWS security concepts and pen testing. It's all AWS focused. And there's 2 paths, attacker and defender. In the attacker path, which is what we are doing, we will exploit our way through misconfigurations in serverless, which is Lambda, and containers, ECS Fargate. In the defender path, we are now viewed, or the target is viewed as the victim, and we go to fix it. But we are on the attacker. And just a quick recap, we have completed level 1 and level 2. So if you missed that, you can watch it on my YouTube page. I just uploaded the level 1 video. I'll upload the level 2 video probably tomorrow or the day after that, and I'll upload this video after that. But we completed level 1 and we completed level 2. So we are going to start level 3. So let me jump over to level 3, and ChatGPT is working now. Before, ChatGPT wasn't working, and I really had to struggle my way through some of these AWS commands. But he claims he's working now, and that he's always available to answer questions. He's not always available, because when I was asking questions earlier, you were overloaded, ChatGPT, so you're a liar, but that's okay. Let me zoom in so you guys can see it. And even if you're like, I have no idea what's going on, I know nothing about AWS, yo, that's where I was at not that long ago. And sometimes just watching someone work through this stuff and just following my thought process, hopefully is helpful to you. So even if you're brand new to AWS, hopefully you find something helpful in this video. So level 3, lessons learned so far. Let me adjust my mic. There we go. Naiden said, got it splurged for that GPT Plus. Actually, I do have GPT Plus through Rhino where I work. But for this VM, since this is the VM I always live stream on, I don't have any of my work stuff, like my GPT Plus subscription on here, just because I don't want to accidentally give away sensitive information. So like this VM that I'm on right now is just my stuff. But I do actually have access to GPT Plus through Rhino Security Labs, where I'm a pen tester at. All right, lessons learned. There are lots of other resources in AWS that can be public, but they are harder to brute force for because you have to include not only the name of the resource, but also the account ID and the region. They also can't be searched with DNS records. However, it is still best to avoid having public resources, and we also learned a little bit about Docker. So this is kind of a recap of our previous challenge where we really use a Docker container. ECR, I think, is what Amazon calls it, Elastic Container Registry or something. I don't remember what the R stands for. Level 3 challenge. The container's web server you got access to includes a simple proxy that can be accessed with this or this. All right, so that's the information we are given right now. Let's go ahead and just open these up and see what they look like. Oh, so is this the original Flaws challenge? Oh, interesting. Oh, does this one... let me just understand what's going on. The container's web server you get access to includes a simple proxy that can be accessed with this. Naiden said, I've heard good things about working for Rhino. Paku is legit. Yeah, dude. Rhino's awesome. Paku is awesome. But for me, like, hopefully you don't come with high expectations. I'm very much new to AWS and AWS pen testing. But the rest of Rhino, they're really good at it. My main role at Rhino is like web apps and then some community stuff, some community building type things. We have a Discord, man. If you're not part of our Discord, let me drop a link to it. We just started a Discord server to just help people grow in their understanding of pen testing and careers and all that stuff. Let me drop a link over in the Twitch chat. If you're not part of it, please come join. Be awesome to have you there. But I've only been a pen tester for 5 months or something, so it's all very new to me. And I'm just in the beginning stages of learning AWS pen testing. So once again, for those of you watching, you might be more experienced than I am with AWS. If I am missing something obvious, please call me out in the chat. My goal as I work through this is to learn. So a lot of content creators, when they do a challenge like this, they do the whole thing ahead of time and they make like a 10-minute walkthrough video. That's not what I'm doing, y'all. I'm approaching this for the very first time and we will stumble through it together. And hopefully you find that helpful. So we do have this simple proxy, right? So we can go anywhere, it would appear. Does that work? Yep. Just broke a little bit, but we can go anywhere with this proxy. So I have a few ideas on how we can abuse this. Let's go ahead and grab, these are both the same thing. It's just showing the proxy, right? We'll go back. Let's grab our container here and let's kind of dig around with Burp Suite and see if there's anything interesting. Send it to repeater. I just want to see what this looks like. So we're doing a GET request to, of course, the proxy here. Here's our host. If I send and we get the response. Look at that. We got some version enumeration. And this is just the original Flaws website, the original Flaws challenge. But I haven't done those either. I jumped to version 2, but there is a version 1. So maybe one day we'll jump into version 1 of the Flaws challenge. Let's see what we can find. Looks like the first challenge is S3 buckets because this level is buckets of fun. And maybe version 1's easier than version 2. Maybe I should have started with version 1, but oh well. We'll try harder, right? The offsec mentality. I just want to forward that. And so all it's doing is proxying requests. So if we do that again, can I do, I always forget what it is. Let me jump back to this. Totally worded that bad. 169 something something, the metadata endpoint. Oh my goodness, I can do it faster myself. AWS, let's say exploitation maybe, SSRF. Here's the endpoint I'm looking for. I just need to get this memorized. So if I proxy over to this, does it do anything, do you guys think? I need HTTP. Okay. So we don't get, I mean, we're getting an okay. If I put anything in here, is it going to be an okay? Yeah, okay. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's getting a valid hit. It gives us an okay no matter what we do. What if I just go like this? It's an okay. What if I change it? You know, just basic stuff, change it to post. Okay, then we get forbidden. All right. What if we drop it in here? Authorization required. Does it look like anything? No. So they seem to have secured that properly. Let me see what this, so when we do this, trying to understand how this whole thing works. So we have a proxy here. Let's see in hacking the cloud if we can find any information on abusing that. The first thing I think is SSRF. So it's a proxy. The container's web server you got access to includes a simple proxy that can be accessed with this. I don't need a hint yet, but we might need a hint. So that gets authorization required. But if we do proxy, let's ask ChatGPT. Oh, he's still talking. Dude, you're too slow. ChatGPT's broken again. I'm always on and ready to respond. No, you're not, scrub. How do I enumerate web proxy with AWS CLI? We still have those creds that we got from level 1. I'm not sure if they would have any permissions to do this. List public keys. Huh. No idea if that'll work. Let's try it though. AWS CloudFront. I don't think it's, well, we'll see what happens. What is this? Flaws1. Okay, I figured I couldn't do that. Let's say, what are some common vulnerabilities with a web proxy hosted in with an AWS container? Man, ChatGPT's slow. Y'all need to quit asking him your questions. And this Hacking the Cloud website, guys, is awesome. If you haven't discovered it. So we know it's not cross-site scripting. He said it's, AWS specific attacks. So I don't think it's like a general web app attack. So this is what we already did. We downloaded the container. The container is hosting a simple proxy. We could see if we get it triggered like a weird error. So if I do this and like just throw something in there, it just gives us okay no matter what. What's this do? Okay. I'm proxying to a proxy. Just gonna break it. Yo, what up, Amoeba Man? Good to have you here, my friend. Maybe you can help us with our AWS pen testing we're attempting to do. I made it to level 3. I'm pretty stuck though. So I don't think we're doing any Docker stuff, although it is a Docker container. Okay, that obviously just broke it doing it that way. All right, let's look at the hint. Containers running via ECS on AWS have their... Oh, that's what I thought. So that makes it sound like SSRF. Oh, no. This is a different... This is different. 254.17. So different IP. Okay, I need to make note of that. Containers running via ECS on AWS have their creds. I didn't even know that. Let's grab that because that's a good thing to make note of. Usually I'm just trying... I'll organize these notes later. Usually I'm just trying that other 169 endpoint. So I wonder if we could do this now. Where the GUID is found from an environment variable. Okay, so we need to include the credential ID. So I had the right ID initially. I was using the wrong endpoint. I was using the endpoint for EC2s to get the metadata service. But containers running via ECS on AWS have their creds here instead of the normal EC2 SSRF. But we need to find this environmental variable. AWS container credentials relative URI. Can we pass that here? There was a machine, or not a machine, a scenario in CloudGo that's similar to this. Let me see. Yeah, this ECS takeover. Let me look at my notes from the ECS takeover, because I remember there was an environmental variable here. Oh, look, so that's the same thing. I just wasn't paying close enough attention, so there's something I already learned. The difference between the two endpoints, between an EC2 and now this Docker container, ECS, has a different endpoint here. This was a little bit different if you're looking over this. This we actually got RCE, a remote code execution, and then we did a wget request to get those creds. But can I have no idea if this will work. What if I copy this? Okay, that won't work. Let's look back at my notes though. AWS container credentials relative URI. I did a wget request for that. This command that'll be run the container shell. This command uses the wget utility to download. Because we had code execution, we could wget to download the AWS creds from the URL. What if I just do something like... First, I want to just save this one. Let's just do this and send this to repeater again. Oh, maybe I should fix that. That's not giving me anything. No, it doesn't URL encode anything. Okay, we need to figure out how to get this. Do we need to re-enumerate the container? So this is from the previous level. I'm not sure if they run together or not. I would think they might. Does this command still work? That's the question. Let's see. Or maybe my session may be expired. No, okay, that still works. See if ChatGPT can help. Describe tasks. So we have batch get image. We need to describe tasks. Your cluster name with the name of your... Do we know the ECS cluster? Is it just called level 2? Dude, I'm telling you guys, AWS is confusing. It's just a whole different beast. to learn, like compared to traditional CTF type stuff. All right, what's the next hint? So that's how you want us to get it? Can I can't do it this way, can I? I can't just do like... Okay, I get that that's where it can be found, but how do I get it? Am I supposed to somehow have access to this? I should have done this right after level 2. I'm confused on what I all did in level 2 and level 1 because I kind of, we did them back to back. What's the next hint? Oh. I see. That's what I was doing wrong. I just need to pass it file like this and do an attack that way. I see. No, I don't see. Proxy file proc. Oh. Ah. I see. Okay, that's what we missed. I need to take note of this. Drop this in my notes. So that's what I had to do. It was that file. All right, just change the HTTP to file, and then we could look at files on the actual container. And now we have the GUID, so now we can use that GUID. I see. So we'll copy this. I like that it gives you hints, right? Like, there's something to be said for being stuck. But honestly, when it comes to AWS, you don't know what you don't know. And as you're learning this stuff, why is it not copying all of that? As you're learning this stuff, this is a good way to learn. Why is it not copying it? What the heck? Bruh. I'll right-click copy then. Oh, I'm gonna lose my mind. Fine. Don't copy. Will you copy to like here? Nope. Whatever. Okay. Anyways, we have the host name here, internal home root, container credentials, relative URI. Here's what I think we're looking for. But can I really not copy any of this? Oh, no, I can. Weird. Strange, but won't copy more than one line. Whatever. We have the metadata URI here, metadata, but what we need is the AWS container credentials relative URI, right? So I think we copy that. What's wrong with my request? Do I have the wrong line? Oh, I just need to clear that end part. So then we get some secret access keys and things like that. I'm going to go ahead and copy this whole request, if it allows me to copy it this time. I don't like that. Can I? Oh, well, whatever. Just going to put this in a table so it looks a little nicer in my notes. So there's what we did in order to get it. After, of course, doing that to get the GUID, we got the GUID, and then we were able to do this command to get the creds. So let's go ahead and copy the creds now. And then we'll set up a new profile. So we have our role ARN. Just clean this up a little bit. We have our access key ID. Grab that. We have our secret access key. And then we have our token. Okay, guys, I have to stop sharing my screen just briefly while I put these into my credentials. So let me do that, and you guys can just look at my face while I do this, if I can find OBS. There we go. So what I'm doing now is I just have to open my credentials for AWS and add these as a profile. It's just that I have credentials for other things in there that you guys do not need to see. So we're going to call this Flaws3 because we're on level 3, and AWS access key ID. And I'm just dropping those values in there that you just saw. And if you don't know what that credential file is, Amoeba Man said, I'm quite lost. What is the actual Vaughn allowing you to read the GUID and then credentials? So I think it's some type of SSRF. So what was there was some type of web proxy. And I've seen this before in AWS. If we have a web proxy, usually it's like an EC2 hosting a web server. And if you can abuse SSRF, you can look at the metadata endpoint, the 169 metadata endpoint, and get IAM credentials. So that's what I was trying initially. But my problem is apparently for these containers in AWS, it's a different endpoint. It's still 169, but it's something else. And so we're abusing, I believe, SSRF in order to make the container retrieve the creds for us from that metadata endpoint. But in order to get those creds, we needed that GUID first. And then we abuse SSRF by changing it to file instead of HTTP. I think that'd still be SSRF because we're making the server make a request to itself to get the GUID and then making another SSRF request with HTTP to get the creds. At least that's how it is in my head. Man said, is that not the same as the Cloud Goat scenario? It's similar to the Cloud Goat scenario. What's different is the Cloud Goat scenario. Actually, I'll pull it up. It'll make more sense to see it. Let me just throw these in here. I'm just about done. AWS session token on the last thing right now. Saved it. Okay. All right, let me go back to share my screen real quick. Beautiful. So I think the Cloud Goat scenario you're referring to is this ECS takeover. And so it was very similar because even on this ECS takeover, it was a website cloner was how it was set up. So we have this clone URL, and you could actually perform SSRF with this clone URL, but you could also perform remote code execution. So really the only difference is in the Cloud Goat scenario, we did something very similar, but via remote code execution. And you can even see what we did. Like it was like almost a Docker escape type situation. We listed the Docker images, and then we had our command here, take over the privileged container. We took over the privileged container. We enumerated running containers for credentials. This one honestly was super complex. I was stuck on this scenario for a couple of days and actually had to reach out to one of our senior pen testers at Rhino, like, dude, explain this to me. But here's where it's very similar. Except for, so here, this is EC2. This is an EC2 endpoint, which is where I'm confused, right? This is EC2, and we're getting the IAM creds here. But right here is kind of what we just did now, where we're getting that environmental variable. And because we had code execution, we could use wget, but we didn't have code execution in this case, so we had to abuse this SSRF vulnerability to get the GUID, and then we could do the thing that we did in the previous one to get the creds. Wow, that's confusing even explaining it. Moifig said, bro, what mic are you using? I'll drop a link to it. It's definitely an overkill. You don't need it. I used to do some music stuff. So used to make some money on the side, recording music for people. So this is like a legit studio mic. So if you want to take up streaming, you don't need something like this. Amoeba Man said, cloud is weird, man. Thanks for the explanation. I think I get the gist, but sheesh, a lot of hoops. It is, dude. Like, it's so hard to learn. The one thing that's been really helpful to me, though, like if I pull up this website, this one right here, Hacking the Cloud, super excellent resource. When I first started learning AWS pen testing, like a month or month and a half ago, I was looking through like this general knowledge stuff. All of this stuff made no sense to me. I didn't understand what these things were that it was talking about. And now I can at least read through this and I understand what it's talking about. So I'm going to take that as a win. And it's just slowly, right, I keep coming back to these challenges, and each challenge I do, I discover something new. It almost feels like the beginning days of me when I first got into pen testing, and I went through like the ethical hacking course by TCM Security and started doing very basic try hack me, hack the box machines. And every machine I did, like I was lost, but I would learn something new. I'm still like that, honestly, with those machines. But that's how I feel every AWS pen testing CTF I do. Like, I'm lost, y'all, but I learned something new. And if I learn at least one thing new, then it was a win, and it was well worth my time. That's my attitude anyways. Okay, so what I just did, guys, is I saved these to my AWS cred. So if you think of SSH, when you have an SSH private key, this functions similar to that. When you set up AWS in your machine, so I have home, Tyler. If you have SSH, you have that, ID, RSA, whatever. When you set up AWS, it's similar, but you have AWS like this, and then you have a file called credentials, which is basically just a text file, and that's where you can set up different named profiles. So I set up a new named profile, and I called it Flaws2, I believe is what I called it, and I put in the access key ID, the secret access key, and the session token, which now allows me to make requests as this new user, as this new role that I found out. Okay. Let's see if I even set that up properly. So actually, if we pull up our notes and we go to user enumeration, here is the command. This is like the who am I command in AWS. So I just need to update the user, and I think I called it Flaws2. No, I called it Flaws3, I think. I don't even know what I named the profile. Okay, yeah, so it worked properly. We can see we got a user ID back. We got an account in our ARN, or our unique identifier for our account here in AWS. So we're able to set it up successfully. What we need to do now is list S3 buckets. S3 buckets, for those of you who may not be aware, remind me sort of like FTP. S3 buckets are often used by websites to store different scripts or images, but a misconfigured S3 bucket that allows other users to list or write to it is a big deal, because secrets can be stored in S3 buckets, and we can dive into it. So let's enumerate and see if we have access to list S3 buckets, which I think it's AWS, S3, LS, S3 again. No. I think it's S3. Oh, gosh, I need to check my notes. I'm close. If we go to bucket enumeration, oh, it's just S3 LS and then our profile. I'm thinking of when we actually do it. Profile, Flaws2, region, US East 1. Gosh, it's Flaws3. Why do I keep forgetting that? Okay. We have a few buckets here that we are able to list. So our user has the ability to list buckets. We see Flaws2.Cloud. That's the first challenge, level 1, level 2, and here is level 3. So we have a bucket here, and now let's see what's in that bucket. And we can do that by doing AWS S3 LS S3 again, going off memory. Hopefully I'm right. We'll copy this, drop it there, profile, Flaws3, region, US East 1. Access denied. So I can see the bucket, but I can't list the bucket. Can I download the bucket? We'll just save the output right here. Profile, Flaws3, region, US East 1. Okay. Am I supposed to do the end or something? So we can list buckets, but we can't see what's in the bucket. These buckets don't matter to us. It's this bucket that we want access to. I can list what buckets are in the account, but I can't list that specific bucket. Thinking in my mind how to go about that. Use those creds on AWS S3 LS to list the buckets in the account. Can I look at any of the buckets? Just curious. So if we do like AWS S3, LS S3, like that, and do like Flaws2.Cloud. So I don't have permission to list the items in a bucket. What? All right, we got to look at the next hint, guys. I don't really know what to go from there. Just go to it? That's all it was supposed to be? Are these all the websites? Is that supposed to be my hint? Like all the websites are being hosted in S3 buckets? So although I can't list it, I should just assume that this is a website? I guess so. Oh, that was the whole thing? We completed the attacker pack of Flaws 2. So there's only 3 levels to Flaws 2. We should dive into Flaws 1 now. I think Flaws 1's quite a bit bigger. So we're done. Level 3 is complete. So the end goal was just getting those creds that we found through the SSRF vulnerability, creating a name profile with those creds, listing the buckets, and each one of these are the different levels, right? So like if we go to level 3, I just thought I had to list what was in the buckets because often you have to do that, right? Each one of these are just the websites that are running. And we now have the account that can list all these. These are just all the different levels. Yeah, level 2, level 1, Flaws2.Cloud is just the main website, and we completed it. So level 3 is done. Awesome. We completed Flaws 2 in a day. So that's exciting. Let's jump into the Flaws 1. So there's 2 different Flaws things. There's Flaws 2 and then there's Flaws 1. Let's glance at it real quick and just see what it looks like. I think this is the OG. Yeah. Has this cool green text. Reminds me of Hack the Box. AWS specific. There's series of hints. Everything is run out of a single AWS account and all challenges are subdomains of Flaws.Cloud. This is built by Scott Piper. Cool. Guys, let's do this next. That sounds like fun to me. Let's go ahead and take like a 5-minute break. And after a 5-minute break, we'll jump into Flaws 1 and keep learning AWS pen testing stuff together, guys. I will be right back.